Morning world, it's about 8:30 in the morning on the 31st of May 2019, and this is my astrological take on the horoscope of Robert Mueller, the special counsel for the investigation of Russian interference in the American elections, which has now been closed. And the reason I'm doing this is because he has become a global figure of interest despite his naturally retiring shyness. Robert Mueller was born on the 7th of August 1944 in the city of New York in the state of New York. There is no known birth time. However, it's fairly obvious to me that there is a way of working out his birth time. Firstly, on the day that he was born, the moon changed sign. If he was born before 1 p.m, the moon was in Pisces. If he was born after 1 p.m, the moon was in Aries. Now, I've asked 3 or 4 people on a simple one question, yes, no, without preempting them up front. Does he have the moon in Pisces or the moon in Aries? And every one of those people has gone moon in Pisces, which is my conclusion also. Moon in Aries people have a kind of penetrating stare, a gung-ho attitude, very strong eyes and eyebrow sockets. Moon in Pisces people look a little bit kind of fish-like, squid-like, and they kind of fade into the background in an element, at least on the surface it appears that they do. So I consider him to have the moon in Pisces. He's a Leo with the moon in Pisces, suggesting that he was born before 1 p.m. There are only 6 possible ascendants for him to have on that day if he is born before 1 p.m. And that runs from Taurus through to Scorpio, 7 ascendants. It's pretty clear to me that he doesn't have Taurus rising because he's tall and thin, and Taurus rising people often have really big shoulders and are quite thick set. Neither does he have Scorpio rising because he doesn't have that penetrating presence and that stare about him that Scorpio rising people have, and neither does he have Leo rising. He's already a Leo sun sign. I find it difficult to believe he has Gemini rising because he's not that verbose and articulate, and he's not as gushing as many people with Gemini rising are at the communicative level. And I don't think he has Cancer rising, but Cancer rising people often have the round face and the full moon and are quite open on the surface around their feelings and emotions. That leaves Virgo and Libra rising. Now, he could be either. The Libra rising persona is often very dignified, it dresses well, scrubs up good in public, can be a bit indecisive. The Virgo rising is very articulate, meticulous, detailed, analytical and precise. Now, Robert Mueller does have a lot of planets in Virgo. Regardless of his time of birth, he was born with the Sun, Pluto and Venus in Leo, but also Jupiter, Mercury, Chiron and Mars in Virgo. And he does have, regardless of the time of birth, a pretty much exact less than half a degree square between Mercury in Virgo to Uranus in Gemini, which does give a very sharp perception and almost forensic-like ability to hone in instinctively and intuitively on relevant and pertinent points. It is perhaps not surprising that Robert Mueller was chosen by previous presidents, the first President Bush, Bill Clinton, the second President Bush, Barack Obama. He was chosen by 4 separate presidents before this current regime to head various different investigations. He's obviously a tried and trusted member of the Washington establishment. He has certain aspects in his chart that make him, that astrologically epitomize his external expression of diligence, dignity and authenticity. He was born with Jupiter sextile Saturn. These people invariably make good business people, but they are also well known for not going over the top, but neither undercutting themselves. Jupiter and Saturn can be the two planets of extremes, but when they're in a balancing aspect with each other, as they are in his chart, this is someone who will always take the middle road and play safe if the options permit. He has Mars conjunct Chiron. This is not someone who's going to take radical chances, even with the weak square to Uranus. He also has a relatively unaspected Sun, except for the sextile to Uranus, which again is a given for taking not leaps of faith, but calculated chances. Uranus is always going to be the unpredictable, but with the Sun sextile Uranus and an exact square from Mercury to Uranus, this is a guy who's going to naturally be drawn towards specific points of focus and concentration and hone in on them in a way that is forensic, laser-like, scalpel-like, sharp, and not let go until he's got what he wants. At this time in his chart, Uranus in the sky has been trining his Jupiter over the last couple of years and sextiling his Saturn, so he has been exercising due diligence in his boundaries. Jupiter in the sky is now trining his Sun. This is a guy who deliberately volunteered to go to and fight in Vietnam because he felt that he should. It was his duty. He received a Purple Heart and a Bronze Star for acts of heroism in Vietnam. Unlike many of the so-called Washington elite who got draft deferments or managed to wheedle their way out of volunteering because of cowardice, because of their position and their draft deferment because of medical conditions, Robert Mueller decided he would fight for his country. I can't help but feel that from an astrological perspective, Robert Mueller is a man of dignity, authenticity, and to use an English acronym, WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. He at no time has made accusations against anyone. Other people have chosen to infer his words and translate their own meaning onto them, but this is perhaps a reflection of their own insecurity or inferiority. I consider Robert Mueller to be the epitome of the very best of the American, not the Washington elite, but the very best of what America has. An ex-Vietnam hero. Someone who stands up and speaks the truth, and who is comfortable in his own skin enough to not give a damn what anyone else believes. He's trusted and tried by so many people in responsibility and power over the decades that I can't help but feel that he is now due the respect and the thanks of the American people, whether you believe him or not, whether you like him or not. This is a man of dignity and authenticity, and I have a great deal of respect for him. And I, for one, wish that we had people like him in the British establishment. Okay, that's my take on Robert Mueller. Hope you found it interesting. I wish him a long, healthy and pleasant retirement. And if I live long enough, one day I look forward to reading his memoirs. Catch you later, world. Bye.